All right, today we're diving into what might just be the most decisive and maybe the most misunderstood shot in all of tennis, the volley. You know the one, that quick, reactive shot right at the net before the ball can even think about bouncing. And yeah, it looks pretty simple on the surface, but the science behind it, it's absolutely fascinating.
But here's the thing that's always bugged me. We're in an era that's completely dominated by these huge, powerful baseline rallies, right? And yet we're seeing fewer and fewer players actually charging the net. So if the volley is such a killer shot, why does it feel like it's a dying art? It's a real puzzle, and solving it is kind of the key to understanding the whole modern game.
And let's be crystal clear, it is a killer shot. I mean, the stats don't lie. When you look at the pros, the numbers are just staggering. When a top player makes the call to go to the net and finish the point, they win that point about 75% of the time. 75%. In a game where matches are decided by the thinnest of margins, that is a massive, massive advantage.
So to really get why this super effective shot is used so, selectively, we can't just talk about strategy. We've got to go deeper, way deeper. We're talking about the science of the human body, the biomechanics. Because the secret to the volley, it turns out, isn't about hitting the ball harder. Nope, it's about hitting it smarter.
And that science, it all kicks off with a really surprising idea. At the net, less is more. I know. We think of tennis as all about these massive swings and just generating tons of power. But when you get up close, right at the net, the complete opposite is true. It's really about doing less to get more out of the shot.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, we need to talk about something called the kinematic chain. Just think of it like a whip, okay? For a big ground stroke from the baseline, you're creating this incredible chain reaction. Power builds from the ground, up through your legs, it twists through your hips and your torso, into your shoulder, and then bam, it just explodes out through the racket. So a ground stroke uses that entire kinematic chain to get maximum power. But the volley, it just throws that rule book out the window. The goal isn't raw power at all. It's all about precision, about placement, and doing it in a split second. The motion is short, it's direct, almost like a punch, and it actually intentionally short-circuits that whole power-generating chain we just talked about.
And this brings us to a really cool concept from biomechanics. It's called segment reduction. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. It just means using fewer moving parts. That's it. By taking out those big, slow rotations of your hips and your torso, the player creates this incredibly solid, stable structure. Think about it. Less movement means less stuff can go wrong, and that is absolutely critical when you've got maybe milliseconds to react.
There's a saying you hear from pretty much every tennis coach, and it just sums this all up perfectly. A volley is a block or a punch. It is not a swing. All the power you need, it comes from redirecting the pace that's already on the ball from your opponent and from your own body moving forward. Your arm and your wrist, they're just there to be a firm, stable platform for the racket to do its job.
Okay, so we've got the science down. Now, how do we actually translate that whole less is more idea into a technique you can use on the court? Let's build the perfect volley, piece by piece.
Really, it just breaks down into 4 simple checkpoints. First up is preparation. Get that racket up and ready, and you want to use what's called the continental grip. It's the best one for switching quickly between forehand and backhand at the net. Second, the turn. It's tiny, just your shoulders. That's it. No big winding backswing. Third, you're not waiting for the ball, you step into it with a short forward punching motion. And last, the finish. Keep it compact, keep that wrist firm, and make sure the racket face is stable all the way through contact.
Now, there are a few subtle differences between the two sides. For the forehand, you want to try to keep your elbow in, pretty close to your body. That creates a really strong, stable lever. On the backhand, using your other hand on the throat of the racket is a game changer for stability and getting the timing right. But for both sides, the main ideas are exactly the same. Stay stable and strong for high balls, and for the low ones, bend your knees and get down with your legs, not by dropping your arm.
So are you starting to see the pattern? Every single piece of advice you ever hear about the volley, keep the backswing short, keep your wrist firm, step into the shot, every single one is designed to reinforce that core scientific idea of segment reduction. It's all about one thing, maximizing your control by minimizing any extra chaotic movement.
All right, so we've got the science and the technique locked down. Let's zoom out a bit. How does this perfect little punch actually go out and win you tennis matches? Well, this is where that science turns into a serious strategic weapon.
Let's go back to those numbers for a second. During a normal baseline rally, a pro player is basically in a 50-50 situation, winning just under half the time. It's a coin flip. But The moment they decide to move forward and take the net, that win percentage just skyrockets to 75%. The data is it's impossible to argue with.
So why is it so ridiculously effective? Well, it boils down to two simple things: geometry and time. When you move forward, you literally shrink the court for your opponent. You cut off all the angles they could hit to. And maybe even more important, you steal their time. The ball gets back to them in half the time, and that forces them into making an error or just giving you a weak ball to put away.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Take a look. Player A comes to the net all the time and, no surprise, wins a ton. Makes sense. But now look at player B. This player almost never comes to the net, but when they do, they're just as successful as player A. What does that tell us? It's not about how often you do it, it's about the quality of the approach. It's about picking the perfect moment.
So what is that perfect moment? The highest percentage play follows 3 basic rules. Number 1, don't just sprint to the net for no reason. You have to go in behind a strong shot that's already put your opponent on the back foot. 2, your court position is key. Get to the middle so you can cut off both the forehand and backhand passing shots. And 3, be decisive. Your volley is there to end the point. It's the knockout punch.
So, what does all of this really mean for the game of tennis today? We've gone on this whole journey, right? From the nitty-gritty of biomechanics all the way to big-picture court strategy, all to understand this one incredible shot.
And this really is the path we followed. We started with the why, that scientific need for stability, which we get from segment reduction. That led us to the how, the actual technique, that short, compact punch. And all of that finally told us the when, the strategy of using that punch to steal your opponent's time and space.
So, what are the big takeaways here? First, the volley's true strength is in its simplicity, its biomechanical efficiency. Second, good technique is all about taking things away, minimizing motion, not adding more. Third, being a great volleyer isn't about being aggressive all the time. It's about being smart and choosing that perfect moment to attack. The volley isn't some old-fashioned relic. It's a tool of pure tactical intelligence. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a game that's just overflowing with unbelievable baseline power, could it be that the ultimate weapon has been hiding in plain sight this whole time? Maybe the answer isn't more and more force, but instead a single, calculated moment of devastating precision.